webcams are on and you are visible and audible. Let me start the...
Avert your eyes. Avert your ears.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Start the stage.
Start the stage. Do, 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 do. Start the stage.
Okay. Hello, welcome everyone to our Double Down August Update Q&A with Alex and Michael. We're doing things a little bit different this month because there's just a lot to go over, so we want both Michael and Alex to be fully focused and not trying to play the game at the same time. To start, how are you guys feeling about the update?
I mean, it's always a unique thing to have an ongoing live game, basically. So I don't think I ever feel comfortable about it. I don't think I ever will.
I mean, I felt pretty good about it. I'm still recovering from a little bit of con crud and jet lag from going to Gamescom, but I felt pretty good about the update, like putting the update out. And for me personally, like as a manager, it was excellent to be able to head over there and be able to give give the team an opportunity to uh, flex their muscles a little bit and push updates and all that. So it made me feel good getting our production coordinator to push her first update live and all that. So for the hotfix, I pushed the buttons on the first one, watching Future Game Show in a hotel room, um, hoping the internet didn't suddenly go out. But I think the update's pretty good, um, and I'm looking forward to the next one already. But that's me.
Nice. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of pretty good feedback overall about the new update. I have been playing myself a lot more. I got kind of motion sick last night playing too late until like 3 a.m. It's looking and feeling really good. But there are some questions from
Hmm.
our community about this update and future plans. So let's get into it.
Let's do
First
it.
one, top of mind, is preferred loot system. So there's been a lot of discussion around the preferred loot system and Morpheus's universal mod that does away with it. On our end, the team's been discussing it extensively. Is there anything that you guys can share about both the justifications for it and where it's going or whether it's going away?
Uh, yeah,
Miley, do
sure.
you want to take that
Um,
one?
yeah, I'll take this one. The first thing is we're an early access title. Uh, part of that promise there is that there's a game for you to play that whole time, um, and it's also not the final game. The preferred loot system was introduced to do two things: to help manage loot pool dilution, and to provide an early differentiation between characters and expose players to more of the options in things. Um, it's not something that we're carrying over to version 1.0. It's something that we're going to be overhauling as part of the fall update. So if you're not familiar, we do monthly updates, um, and then we do quarterly updates. This past week, we did the summer update, our second quarterly update, and each quarterly update is like a big sea change. We do a lot of big changes, and the in between there we have smaller features and content trickling in. Um, so the fall update is uh, really focused on revamping meta progression, revamping build crafting, revamping character, weapon, and build differentiation. So the smaller monthly updates leading up to our fall update, which is going to be sometime in November, uh, will be some of those changes will trickle in, but really it's going to be the fall update where you see big changes to all of that. So um, I said loot pool dilution. Loot pool dilution is an issue where as you have more and more things in the game, any particular combination becomes less available to you. Um, and so Uh, that's a problem that you can see in some roguelikes. Um, what's going to happen is, as part of our meta progression overhaul, we're going to be buffing character perks. We're going to be completely overhauling the EXE system, adding a lot of new EXEs, and there's going to be a couple that target the preferred loot system. Um, Basically, what will happen is you'll have EXEs that will expand everyone's loot table, for blades, for rails, for amps, uh, so that you'll have more and more things available until you max that out and you have everything available. And then you'll also be able to unlock bans. And so on a per character basis, you can ban certain weapons. You'll basically have enough bans to be able to bring each character back down to around the same amount of gear they have in the preferred loot system right now. Um, Wait, this sounds good. Yes, could we please get a little bit of faith that we're doing things that are good, and that it takes time to do things good? Um, yeah, so the idea here then is eventually you'll be able to unlock everything for everyone, and if you want to have, Rondo is my character where I got everything available and it's kind of a mess each time, cool, good for you. And if you're like, and Goro's the one that I've narrowed down to this thing, so he plays like that, eventually, this is a way that you'll be able to dial in how you want these characters to play. You can change it up and all of that, and it's also something that you're going to earn. So as you unlock new characters, they're going to have different starting weapon pools, etc. And that's going to expose you to different ways these play. Keep in mind that all of the progression systems in any roguelike, including ours, are really tutorializing the complexity of these systems, the complexity of these games. So when you unlock your first character, yeah, they're going to have different weapons available at the start. And then expanding that pool is part of progression, and then being able to narrow in that pool for different characters is the end all goal. So that's what's happening with that. Um, I think, as we said before, a lot of different things that are in the game right now are not all version 1.0 ready. And some of them are not intended to be at all what we want for version 1.0, but they're part of making sure the game is consistently there and
Yeah.
available for players. So
Process to this stuff.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why we go to early access. That's why we take the time to build this stuff out. That's why we try and communicate these things to the audience as well. Like, hey, main games is complicated. There's a lot of different components that have effects towards one another slash systems that you might not think about holistically in some fashion or another. And so it takes a lot of time to put these things down, on paper, especially with a game like this that has a kind of pretty high threshold of complexity, considering our random generation, the run-based nature of things, character builds and character differentiation. It's a big game and it's complicated. And so we've had a lot of different systems that have changed over time, even before we released it in early access, for good reason, because we put it in the game, we iterated on stuff, and sometimes things on paper don't quite turn out how you want it to, or it just takes time to have it in, to gestate, and find better ways to implement this. Or we're putting a placeholder in because it affects this type of system over here, and we know we need to put something like that in, and we'll evolve it over time. So there's a lot of different ways that systems and mechanics go into games, and for a title like this, again, it's just that process. It takes some time. Some will feel more complete earlier and good earlier. Some will take a bit of time to mature and get to the space where, continued feedback is good, and just, hey, it's gonna take more time, but we need to put this in for now, for a variety of different reasons, oftentimes. So it's rarely simple or straightforward in a title like this, or for games in general. And the order of operations is always something that we consider pretty heavily when it comes to how and why we're putting stuff in, especially when it comes to the live version of the game, and what updates we're going to be putting stuff in. That's all super important to us, because we want to make sure and have components in that we can test for, that we can give feedback on, and that we can also vet for ourselves in different ways. And there's infrastructural elements that just need to be true at different times, and they might not always be totally complete yet. So just, hey, it's complicated, TLDR.
hmm
Great. There was a suggestion, I think by Morpheus, about having weapons amps via blueprint unlocks tied to lore. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've had a lot of
yeah.
conversations around things
hmm
like that. Um, you know, uh,
Yeah.
unlikely we'll go too far down that rabbit hole. We think we have a pretty good plan and course of action for what we want to do to have all the systems that we're putting in to get to that version 1.0 stuff that I think will feel good eventually.
Mhm. I'm giggling over here because when I joined the studio, I think we already had and disregarded a blueprint system, not that same way, but sort of a weapon by weapon unlock working with the same sort of terminology. And we've put a lot of things into the game. We've tried a lot of things, and we will continue trying things. It's about iterating and finding what works uh, for what we're doing.
Awesome.
Next question.
Gosh, Michael, have you watched Indie Cross yet?
No, um,
Too much K-pop
Big
Demon
sigh.
Hunters.
too much K. Yes, too much K-pop Demon Hunters. I promise it is near the top of my list, which means I will probably check it out in about 8 9 months. Um,
You heard it here first. Clock 'em.
yeah, yeah.
All
Please hit me up. Please hit me up next May and hold my ass accountable if I have not seen Indie Cross yet.
right, real question. On run design, currently there's a tendency by players to loot every nook and cranny of the map and then end up super overpowered for boss fights, which can make future runs feel more tedious. Are there any plans to counter that behavior?
I mean, always, we've had a lot of different uh, aspects of our runs change over time. We're still missing components and different features that we want to put into place to help steer players slash pace things. That's a broader issue of pacing, whether it be through discovery or events or a dozen different ways that we've talked about internally. So it's just one of those things where, again, as our features are coming online, as different components are going into the game, that's definitely been a focus of ours and will continue to be a focus of how we meter stuff out, how we pace things out throughout the course of a run, and keep the challenge engaging slash the discovery engaging. And it's just, with an open world structure and format, there's a lot of different considerations and pieces there that need to be balanced out slash things that we are still going to be bringing online. So
Mhm. Yeah, we've been making big balance changes pretty regularly to the game, um, and ultimately the way we would discourage that is through tuning the world tier system specifically. So right now, different activities that you do in the world, like killing enemies, looting, uh, collecting a prism, defeating a boss, those all increase the world tier at different rates. And the current way that it's tuned does give you a lot more, like does accelerate the difficulty more as you move along the critical path. We'll continue to balance and tune these things, but also I just want to stress that like we look at the difficulty zero, not playing without the glitch bar. Working to your first victory is sort of the end of the tutorial, if you will. At that point, like you should have mastery of the systems, and that point you can start getting super hard. And part of the experience here then is being able to figure out how do I pace myself through the game? How do I decide, do I push down the critical path versus do I get more power? And so you're gonna get a sense of doing that, and then you'll be able to crank up the difficulty and push the game harder and unlock more things as you continue through. So, um, and as an open world game, we do want to give you the freedom to make the decision of do I need more power or do I fight the boss now? And making that a meaningful decision is the goal, but there isn't necessarily a specific time you should be doing one thing or another that we want to enforce as a
yeah,
mandatory uh, behavior. We want the game to be about evaluating what is my next thing that I do here.
yeah. One of the more unique things about our game is the world tier stuff, and so that's always been a bigger balanced stake that we planted in the ground, and we'll always need continual tuning until we get to like a very comfortable spot, and we're not there yet. We're getting closer each time, and again, like new elements introduced can change that, and hey, we're talking about new loot changes and characters and enemies, like all that stuff starts to it's a larger pool of things you have to balance against, and so it's always a push and pull on the difficulty side, and like how we do it, especially in a game like this that is this dynamic comparatively. So
Hmm.
Another thing on the run design and structure. Current shrine extraction interrupts roguelike flow. What about allowing upgrading or refilling directly in the overgrowth, or ordering food at the shrines or other places in the overgrowth instead of returning to the hub?
there are some things that are intended to be run only that would be disruptive to the hub, and vice versa. So as we've gone, there's been a lot of discussion about the different mechanics that we introduce in those like segregated spaces, and some of them have crossover and some of them don't. So there's always potential for pushing one thing over another, but again, this is kind of in the grand scheme of balance. How we do stuff. We Early on, we were much more of the mindset that you'd be returning to the hub way more regularly. There were versions of the game where you didn't return to the hub at all, and so there's still like a happy medium to reach for like what's valuable there and what's not. It's less about like, is it possible to do this thing in the hub versus in the run, because putting those mechanics in either case are certainly possible. It's more about what's the intention and flow of this stuff, and you know giving players breaks, pacing stuff out appropriately, giving them clear incentives to go back to stuff without it feeling disruptive is still the goal here. With an understanding like it's not there yet, but that is the kind of crucial thing of how we balance that stuff out and what feels valuable over time, especially over the course of the run. And again, as we're layering in more of these mechanics, if folks have been following along, like each of our updates has a lot of different stuff that we put into it. It's not just this is the update where we add 3 enemies. We're always tuning mechanics. We're always layering in different systems that we've been waiting to put online, and so I think as we get closer to 1.0, that stuff will start to feel more balanced, especially on the like overall grand scheme of things pacing of the game. That's the stuff that like comes in later in the process, because we're putting in these different components that are changing this part of the run, or changing this part of like why am I considered to do that, or the loot systems, or things we've already talked about. So as we dig deeper into coming up on the end of the year, and as we're coming into our version 1, whenever that specifically is, we'll have that perspective and kind of the full spectrum of information in front of us to balance those types of grander scheme things out better. Not to say we aren't making changes in the meantime, and that we haven't responded to feedback otherwise on those fronts, but you know it'll get closer and closer as we get closer and closer when it comes to that pacing, that overarching like run to back to the hub pacing type of thing, and how much of it you're really doing, and again incentivizing it enough for it to feel like it's good and not disruptive. So
Hmm. Having said that, I think you're going to be more likely to see weapon vendor, like the vendors in the hub selling weapons again, more than you're likely to see all of their features move into the overgrowth. Um, so our intention is that both of these things are part of the game. Um, Someone asked in the comments real quick here, if if the world tier increases the difficulty of the bosses, and then someone's like, I don't think it does. It does. So
it definitely does.
world tier scales up the difficulty of the bosses. So if you it's extremely obvious if you were cheating as a dev and running in to fight the twins at World Tier 1 versus World Tier 20. But yeah, World Tier affects the stats of the bosses.
It's true. Side note, nothing to do with this, but you ever go to like a barbecue or like a cookout thing, and there's a big fire pit, and then your clothes get all smoky, and then you think you wash your clothes, and then they still smell smoky like 3 days later?
Did you go to a barbecue recently?
I was at a thing on Saturday, like a nighttime s'mores thing with lots of fire. But I hate that. Like you can't get the like what has the smoke smell? I don't know. Anyway, that was an aside.
That
Wanted to
was
break
an
up the like
aside.
heavy design chat. We were
Yeah,
getting we're getting thick with
yeah,
mechanics and
yeah. We're
process
getting
here.
yeah we're getting deep. We gotta.
I need to
It's
lighten it up a
it's
little bit
ADHD
here.
o'clock.
Listen, I love talking about this stuff, but also you want to keep people's attention and not have them fall asleep at certain things. So
Classes in session. All right.
All right.
E, what you got?
Yes. Um, let's see. Charged attacks. I'm going on charged attacks. Any plans to change charged attacks? Currently, some
Never.
feedback about them being unusable in horde combat and generally not ideal due to long setup time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, charge attacks is a thing where it's kind of been on the back burner for some time. It's not that it's not important, but it's a stack rank priority system, right? Of like all the stuff that we got to do. And so sooner than later, we'll be addressing that stuff. We'll have more ways of making that important. So it is a valuable part of our combat flow for sure, but it hasn't had as much attention as some other like foundational things or getting enemies in or run stuff that ultimately a lot of these different mechanics share the same people that are thinking about and implementing it, whether it's on the design or engineering side. So it's just an order of operations. But yeah, charge attacks are definitely something that we want to be addressing, especially for our fall update and stuff we got going on there. Whether we're introducing new weapons or not, there is still work to be done on core combat stuff, including charge attacks, to make them feel, intact and powerful and fair and balanced with the other stuff that's going on with all the other hordes of enemies. So
Can I be a jerk and just copy paste something from Slack yesterday to answer this question
Yeah,
further?
do it. We love insight.
If you aren't reading the chat,
read the
at
chat.
3:34 yesterday, uh, experimental pass on charge attack for all blades. Increased charge attack speed significantly across board. Added window super armor during charge. So that's something that we on the design team are playing with right now.
Yeah,
But yeah, these are things that we're experimenting with these things on the daily. We're changing things on the daily, um, and we have to pick and choose what we focus on, as Alex is saying.
yeah.
And
I just want to
charge
be
attacks and weapons are a big focus for the fall update, and tuning the tuning the numbers here on this is something we can do quickly.
Yep.
Adding additional mechanics for weapons is something we want to do for the fall update.
Yeah, I also want to be clear. Like when we talk about a lot of change in these updates when Michael and I are doing this stuff, and for as much change as we do implement, it's always a very careful and steady type of change. Like sure, you could fuck up a bunch of numbers and really make things crazy, but you have to take that in stride, and that's the stuff that just takes time. It's not about like, could we do this system at this time, or couldn't you just change some numbers? It's like, yeah, we could easily change this number or that number. That's not a mechanic. There are lots of things you can tune under the hood that we, continually try. But ultimately, you have to weigh that against all the other stuff going on in the game, all the other numbers fighting it, and mechanics and systems and what have you. So it becomes this thing where it's not a matter of could you just change numbers or not. It's can you test it? Can you put it through its paces? Can the design team vet it? Can QA vet it? Can we, make sure it has a long enough time in the oven, so to speak, to like bake and or rise or I don't use whatever cooking metaphor you want. I don't care. But like, does it have that time to actually, really match up with the expectations that we have? And so, even if we don't always get stuff right, at the moment on a patch or whatever else, we're always, doing that kind of longer form of testing on it, and we're getting there for a reason. Like whatever numbers we do end up on stuff that is, quote unquote, easy to tune. It's for good reason, and we've vetted and validated it as much as we can within the time frame that we have. So rushing stuff out is not good, even if you could tweak things. And obviously, we want to push things as quickly as possible. So that's why we try and leave like larger balance stuff for the bigger updates, because that means we've just had more time to play it and test it and try it out. And that's super helpful because then we can see like, this shit's busted for this character or that weapon or this mod or this, and it just, it there's no longer a how long did it take an engineer to implement or how long did it take a designer to do that. It's like, well, yeah, we have to like look at our spreadsheets. We got to spend hours and hours and hours going through runs and just testing it, and there's no getting around that at a certain point. So that's where a lot of this balance stuff is like will just always take time.
Okay, I'm gonna
What's
jump a
next,
little
Ian?
bit because Cherry brought up, do y'all have any thoughts on the hack feedback? And this ties into some other feedback we got about parry being still difficult to read and execute, and some people still favor just dodging. Are there any thoughts on adding a perfect dodge in addition to parry, or tweaking hack?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Michael.
you want to jump on this one, or I can? Okay.
No, go for it.
Um, yeah. So those are two different things. Hack. Yeah, hack makes it difficult to hit all your parry timings because if you practice against non-hacked enemies and then all your timing windows are off, that sucks. Um, we want to redo that at some point. Whether that's increasing the parry windows against hacked enemies, uh, or otherwise like making better signaling for, hey, this is when you should parry. It's something we want to do in the future. It's not a top
Probably
priority
both of
right
those
now.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, I one of the things that I wanted to do very early on that we still haven't done is make basically a training holobite for parry, which is this
yeah,
one makes really obvious parry signals. So you can,
right.
if you're a new player, you might value that really highly, and as a experienced player, you'd be like, I don't care about that. But
Yeah,
making one that just makes there are tells in every parryable attack, but they're not necessarily obvious. And certainly, we have a lot of parries that we have some enemies like even just the basic Dirk swipe, right? They're like, hey, and they kind of psych you out for a second before they go. You have to hold it longer than you'd think.
yeah,
And so, yeah, hack and parry don't play great right now because hack is basically its entirely new subset of parry timing. Um, with regards to perfect dodge, it's something we've experimented with in the past, but we don't want to be in a space where you're choosing to parry or dodge, and that those are you have sort of two options that are both always useful because that kind of invalidates one of them.
yeah,
We want dodge and parry to be separate skills that we're testing.
yeah.
Um,
And there needs to be like more discrete reasons to use them in different scenarios. So,
mhm.
our combat over time has had some new mechanics layered in, and again, like, have been adjusted over time. There's still plenty of room to go to you know polish a lot of that stuff, especially on the communication side of things, like Michael's talking about. Whether it's something in the UI that we're doing more globally or universally, whether it's enemy animations, whether it's VFX specific. There's a lot of considerations there, especially in a game like this that has groupings of enemies and a lot of chaos going on screen. So we still want these things to play useful roles, but yeah, making sure that they have their kind of discrete values at different times and that those things are telegraphed better is definitely on the list for us to make sure we're addressing. So
Great. So far, thanks everyone for the very detailed questions and for the very detailed answers. Uh, Moving on to stagger and execution, more mechanic stuff. Are there any plans for reworking stagger slash execute? Will bosses eventually get stagger bars? Will heavy weapons get better at stagger?
I mean, definitely we're going to be doing more on that front. It is not finished yet. So whether or not bosses get what have you is less relevant to ultimately, like, we're going to be working on stagger stuff, and you know just like we were talking about previously, the overall flow of any combat scenario and making choices on particular goals, sub goals you have there about like whether they're staggered, whether you're executing, whether you're dodging, parrying, and like those scenarios and how they work together. That's part of what we're continually working towards overall. So as we do
Mhm.
more weapon update stuff, those things will come as well. Unique animations, whatever may be coming of that, but there's still plenty of work to do on stagger and parry and all those systems being intertwined and working well and harmoniously holistically.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, with the fall update, we're looking at differentiating each of the weapon classes uh, much more distinctly and giving them additional mechanical features. With that in mind, definitely we want a class of weapons that is focused around stagger being very valuable, and having weapons that are like this is more focused around like stagger and execute, versus other weapons being focused around like get as many fast hits as you can, or uh, get in their face and use parry often. Never run, kind of things. We want those weapon classes to feel more distinct, uh, and have their own sort of unique mechanical sets, so that if you close your eyes and you're tapping the controller, you can literally hear players are like you can. My goal here is you can tell what weapon someone has, or at least what class weapon someone has, by how they're playing and what you can hear them doing. Are they going tap tap charge versus tap tap, and or tap 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 clunk as you do a flash step. Are they going tap tap parry tap tap parry? That sort of what is the raw rhythm, um, is what we're really focusing on for the fall update.
Great. All right, and now bounties. Some people forget to accept bounties and then they're already in the run. Are there any plans to change that system so they're either accessible through other menus when you're in the overgrowth or tied to NPCs in the overgrowth?
Um, Michael.
Sorry, could you repeat part of that? It broke up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Could
Sometimes
you
people
just
forget to
Yeah.
accept bounties and then they're already
Oh, yeah.
in the run. Any plans to change it so
Yeah.
that they can access them later?
I don't know about accessing them later. Is But I think the general focus here is going to be reminding you, hey, you don't have any bounties selected, and sort of making that more intentional, for players. We do want you to be locking those in before you go on the run, but we can definitely give you a reminder. Hey, you didn't select any bounties, that sort of thing. Um, we might eventually like also move that into like a quick menu in the loadout menu as well, like we have some of the other functions over time. One of the things I want to do for the fall update is rework the loadout menu so that there's a lot of information in there, and different information is valuable at the beginning of a cycle versus mid-cycle, and so having that be available to people, is something we'll look at.
Cool. And then will there be any breaker specific bounties?
Um,
Uh,
we'll see. We'll
yeah,
get into like more bounty stuff closer to the fall update.
yeah. For the fall update, we are looking at having uh, bespoke quests, if you will. So the bounty system is procedural quests. I'm using quests in like a designy term, not a uh, the breakers don't think of them as quests, but the uh, we are looking at having quests tied to vendors, tied to breakers that are used as part of meta progression, and so you will see things that are related to there. But whether we'll have like bounties that are like do this with Rondo, we'll see.
What about more complicated ones that aren't just collection or destruction?
Like go plant a farm and raise an eagle and get
Yeah,
married
Yes, in that order.
yeah.
as one quest.
Campaign
That is the point.
for mayor of Overgrowth, and
Yeah, be mayor of
yeah,
Overgrowth.
and get primaried by Rondo. Uh,
Oh, damn Rondo. He's always primarying
mhm.
everyone. That guy's a political hawk, if you know what I mean. Uh,
Oof, they're not going to be raving
but
about that pun.
I'm not gonna make any more puns. Just gonna move on. Yeah, no. I listen. This is one of those systems that is like going to change over time, get more stuff over time, I should say, rather than change. But you know, we have stubs of things or first passes of things, or like we need to build out the lattice work of this stuff, things we've been talking about this whole time, and certainly quests, or as we use the term internally at least, like there's more to that stuff that we want to be making sure that we hit the mark for to not just make it collect these things or hit these things in this way. So we'll see how deep we can get on it, but definitely there's more work to be done there to make them more robust.
Polaire suggests bounty for fishing. Any fishing in the works?
Not every game needs fishing. I'm not saying we
Mhm.
won't add fishing. I'm just saying not every game needs fishing because suddenly there became a thing I don't know, like 3-4 years ago, everyone decided they needed to pet animals in every game and that they needed to have fishing in every fucking game. And listen, I love a petting an animal and I love a fishing if it's done well in specific games, but don't do it just for the sake of doing it. We were talking about this before the stream when we were testing audio and everything. It's like, don't do things for the sake of doing it. If we, there's an advocate for it on the team, whatever. It's like, man, I fucking love Sega bass fishing. What if we did this, this, and that? And we had the time for it. And it's like, yeah, man, let's do a fishing update. Sounds great. But we wouldn't just do it. Sorry, that was my mechanics rant of not every game needs everything.
Singing Big Mouth Billy Breaker on the wall as a prestige skin. Anyhow.
I didn't. Sorry, that wasn't like a rant against you, Polar. It's just like the general suggestion. There was this era of everyone's got to have every mechanic in there. It's like sometimes you don't, and maybe we will have fishing. I don't know yet. We don't know yet, but be prepared to not have fishing just as much as be prepared to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Seafood ramen. All right, on to performance. In general, there's still been some inconsistent performance and consistent feedback that we should prioritize optimization and performance with each update. Michael, you had some information to share about this.
Yeah, I guess it's less about I guess information, just more just like our philosophy here. Our goal with each update is to make sure the game is playable, but performance is one of those things that ultimately comes towards the end of the cycle. So we continue to make performance improvements and all of that, but over optimizing performance while you're still working on systems means you have to go back and redo that. It's akin to like if you're working on the plumbing or electrical in a house and you cut a hole open in the wall so you can get back there and work on all the pipes, which is what we're doing daily in my metaphor. If you seal up the wall and mud it up and paint it at the end of every day and then go cut a fresh hole in it every morning and start again, it's not useful. On the other hand, if you cut a hole through the wall both sides and now dogs can come through, that's bad. So we never want performance to be terrible, but performance is not going to get buttery smooth and perfect in all areas until we get to version 1.0.
Yeah.
It's about like if we're making something and we're adding something new, we can do that, or we can make it. We can focus on performance, and if we focus on performance and then make something else new, that oftentimes undoes those performance things. A lot of performance optimizations come down to the way things are timed, with regards to when things load, when things are kept in memory, when things are destroyed, how things are multi-threaded, which is how many things can be broken up into components and sent to your processor or your GPU simultaneously, etc. Finding out now that we've actually got everything in there, optimizing specific assets and being like, hey, this V effect that was originally expected to be used, once in a small room is now attached 5 million times to every blade of grass or whatever.
Oh, that's
You
definitely happened.
find those things and optimize. Well, we did have an issue where we had a bunch of shadow casting bits
Oh
on
yeah. Every piece
the
of Geo
crates that
was
break.
casting shadow.
Yeah, and so every time you'd break a crate, there'd be a whole bunch of shadow casting geo that got created, and
Which shadow
we caught that
casting,
and we
for those,
fixed that.
yeah,
Shadow
for those
casting
that
is
don't,
super expensive.
very, very expensive in games. Same as
Yeah,
transparency, because you're just whatever. There's a lot of math to it, but it's basically like, hey,
yeah,
you're making like draw calls multiple times in ways that
yeah.
really bog stuff down. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Michael. I just wanted to jump in on shadow casting because that's a particular pet peeve. Did I freeze?
I think Michael is frozen. Michael has
Uh,
frozen.
Well, we can wrap this up on that particular question because I think he said all the good things, but I would finish it up with, yeah, performance takes time to do. There's an order of operations for this stuff for a good reason. It's not like we don't want to improve performance generally, but also we do improve performance each update that we're doing in some fashion or another. And you may not notice it because it may not be affecting your GPU or CPU or memory or whatever else load that you already have. So It will really depend, but yes, generally there's more to do closer to version 1 because of just order of operations for this stuff. So, and we still do optimize where we can each update.
Great. Michael now cannot reconnect. Here, let me throw
Well,
you a question, Alex, and then we'll troubleshoot
yeah,
Michael on the
we can get
side.
through some other stuff. So,
Yeah. Let's see. Can you talk about whether there's been any Egyptian influence on the game, and if so, what? Some people have
Egyptian
noticed.
influence.
Yes.
It's very specific. I mean, I think it's hard to say specifically Egyptian stuff. Um, when it comes to any kind of like pattern work or glyphs, I think you take from what you can, and there's a lot. I'm sure that's like worked its way into any artist's rapport when it comes to how prevalent Egyptian design has been just as a cultural touchstone in the world. So not specifically or explicitly, but ambiently, sure, I guess.
All
Um,
right, I'm back. I heard
Woo!
everyone fine,
Great.
but I guess Discord decided I shouldn't. I
yeah,
restarted it and we got a new update, so that's fun. Thank you, Discord. I wanted to patch
Discord's
in there
been
with us.
really cool today. So,
Very cool.
what's next, EE?
All right. Aerial things. Are there plans to make the glider glidier? That was the full question. And any plans for more aerial attacks, moves, or combos?
I mean, when it comes to glider stuff, it's kind of packaged in with our other movement mode with the hoverboard, meaning that we have time carved out to do more work on those things, and it'll be a more holistic approach to like your movement and traversal, generally speaking. I think one of the things that separates our game from other titles and any similar or adjacent genre, what have you, is that we've got some different movement modes, and we definitely want to make them feel as good as we can, and also layer whatever we can in. So I think we'll see how far we get for the fall update, and for after that and version 1 and all that. But definitely there's more work to be done on glider feel and hoverboard stuff, mechanics feel, what have you, to really improve those modes and make them as good as they should be for this title, because they are cool modes and they deserve attention, so they will get it. What else? What's next?
Michael, anything to add on aerial stuff? Alex, cover it.
No, I think we're good.
Cool. All right. My multiplayer. Could you please remove cycle restart from multiplayer sooner rather than later, as it's disincentivizing multiplayer sessions? They would love to be able to invite
Agreed.
friends to an in-progress run, as the runs are very long.
Agreed. Yeah. We hate that we don't have it right now. It's something we're working on. It is a it is a uh, it is a technical challenge and as well as a game design challenge with regards to like join in progress and making that a good experience. But rejoin and join in progress are in the works. They're just not simple things to do. Um, uh, but we are working on them. We are looking at them, and they're things that I want to get in as soon as possible. I agree. It's a big disincentivizer for multiplayer, and as someone who wants to be playing this game with his nephew a lot, and he's in different time zones, and he has to go to bed early for school and all that. Yeah, I want to be able to pick up and replace that, like pick up and rejoin sessions. So yeah,
Heck,
we're working on it.
heckin' kids having a sleep.
Gosh darn.
Yep.
All right, now let's talk about the world, the whole world. Are there any plans to expand to the underground labs or sky labs?
Always. I mean, the stuff
Yes.
that we have in right now is relatively rough draft in a lot of ways, or just we've talked about this previously. We have to get stuff into the queue of the world. Like, we're generating these worlds, and so making sure each of these pieces are present in some fashion or another, so that holistically we can make sure we're tackling all these different variables and aspects to roll a world / play in a world is important. And having those sort of like drafts of the labs is as important as any other piece of it. So they'll get more attention and time and more complexity and depth. As again we get closer to version 1, we're already starting to add more stuff, and fall update will have some revisions of that stuff. So we'll definitely be adding more there. They are just drafts to make sure they have a spot in the world to generate appropriately, and make sure we're putting loot in the right places, and a lot of different reasons to make sure that they exist, and they'll get some love very soon.
Yeah. Yeah, there's new caves in the August update, and those are more of what we're looking to do with Skylabs and the drop-down labs in the future. So if you saw the original, stub cave was very small. These newer caves have a lot more going on. You're going to see the spaces expand, and then when we get to version 1.0, they will have more specific reasons to seek them out rather than just being the high-level loot areas that they are right now. So they're going to get better. Don't worry.
Are there still plans for world events?
Always.
Yes, we have plans for some dynamic events, and you ought to see those in the fall update, if not sooner.
Sweet. And what about...
Tomorrow.
No,
No.
What?
Poor Michael.
we get one major update a month,
But what
or
if?
one.
Hear me out now, publicly.
All right.
No, what's up, Edie?
What about the day-night cycle?
You know, I think day
Probably
night
not a.
cycle. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say probably not a ton of specific things there unless we have a way to make that really meaningful. Like right now a lot of that is more aesthetic, and that's cool, but um, we've
Yeah,
used it in the past to signal more meaningful like gameplay moments, and we may do more of that in the future, but we don't want to we want to make sure we're spending our time on features that are most useful to the gameplay experience,
yeah.
and that can be useful, but we want to make sure it does everything that it needs to if it's going to be a feature we're putting
It's on the discussion board.
in.
Right now, just some miscellaneous questions. When are the mob panels coming?
We have people
Yeah.
working on our different narrative components. It's a relatively small group, and we've got stuff
hmm
plotted out. We've been playing catch up on some fronts to get things out. So you'll see more, especially for the fall update. You'll have more panels for different characters, um, and that's about it.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't forget, but we wanted to jump ahead to the twins so that we'd have those out with them. The twins panels that are out are hopefully this is obvious, just a small portion of their story, and Maw will have a story as well in the future. Um, uh, every crown will have story along with a number of other characters.
Can you increase the drown time or make it possible to swim?
You used to be able to swim in this game many
Yeah.
many moons ago. Swimming's interesting. We're not putting it back in the game anytime, probably ever. But it's got to have utility, and you need to be able to do something more with it. So, we had taken it out at a certain point because just mechanically it wasn't doing enough to justify itself, and the end result was like, well, you're going to take damage and drown anyway, so just shortcut that stuff, and they can't swim. So it's the reason why a lot of games make that choice. It's like making swimming interesting and not just something that exists, and meaningful is important for like what we're doing for any of our mechanics, and that means putting time into something like that. And if the net result isn't going to be valuable enough, then we won't do it. So um,
hmm
probably not going to put swimming into the game in the future, but we'll keep adjusting timings of things, and punishment slash reward for different things, and balancing that stuff out, including how much you suffer from that type of stuff.
Why do all the breakers wear masks?
Because they're shy.
hmm
You know, They're all very shy. No, I like masks. Masks are cool. Um, it helps to, well, especially in a 3D game, you don't have to do facial rigs, so that's a nice benefit. But from like a lore standpoint and kind of world building standpoint, there's like some mystery to characters when you have masks on. It also denotes like a particular like class and type of character. Like they're in a group, they have masks because they're all doing X or Y or Z. You know, they're drifters or they're breakers or what have you. And so it's just like an easy identifier for character design. So, uh, and then lore wise, when you're going out into dangerous spaces, it might be useful to wear safety gear and protect your face to some extent. Why wear a mask in hockey? Because they're
Hmm.
cool and mysterious, and that's the only reason.
All the goalies definitely want to be mysterious. That's the principal reason.
It's because they're all smoking cigarettes under those masks, and they don't want people to know.
What is next for character perks? Can you share anything?
You get like a order Domino's pizza perk, and you get a coupon every time you order a pizza, and you get on the membership card.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, no, as part of the meta progression update and character and weapon updates for the fall update, we are looking at uh, generally just juicing the perks, making them more powerful, more uh, bigger, louder build arounds, if you will. So um, the goal for each of those is to really give you a way to start a particular build, and so we want those to be more impactful than some of them are right now. Some of them have gotten buffed recently, and it changes the value of those quite a bit. Um, and so our goal is to take a look at all of those and make sure that we either have a better version or a better version if we need a better version, or tune the numbers until all of those are useful.
Yep.
Do you think the pace of the combat will change much in the following updates? And if so, will it be toward a faster, chaotic game or a slower, more methodical one?
I don't think anything's getting more chaotic in the future. I think one of our challenges with this title is always the chaos on the screen. You've got multiplayer, some multiple characters, dish and damage. We've got VFX and different buffs, different status effects. You've got, groups of enemies rather than more one on one stuff. So I think as time has gone on, we've definitely done our best to communicate certain things during combat and make it more clear. So uh, we want to balance out that level of like intentionality with a bit of that like chaos and speed. It is going to remain a speedy game, but I think ultimately we'll see where things net out on like the specific numbers of stuff on like a weapon by weapon or enemy by enemy basis. But there's definitely a value in like slowing certain things down or speeding certain things up. But generally speaking, I don't think the pace of combat's going to like dramatically swing in any way, shape, or form. We just want to make sure and thread the needle as carefully as possible and clarify where we need to slash adjust pacing where needed to make things feel as legible and fun and interesting as possible in our combat scenarios. So still work to be done there for sure, always.
Mhm.
Are any updates on our stance on local split screen?
Local split screen is very cool, but also extremely costly and difficult to do. And we are not a giant developer. So probably not, especially when it comes to online multiplayer stuff and trying to do split screen. That is very difficult to do. Even if it's just
Mhm.
local split screen, there's a big consideration here in everything that we do when it comes to like features that we would like to have, polish features, or even just like more fundamental things like a split screen co-op thing. Like let's just say it was local. The things that we have to weigh as developers are always just same as we've been talking about this whole time, and we always talk about each time, is just like order of operations and priorities, and like what the value of a feature is going to be. Is it going to be worth it to enough people, to us, internally, to support this feature? Is it going to be core enough or foundational enough in some way or another? And if the answer is like unlikely, then spending time on it is then going to be unlikely. Especially the more complicated the feature is, and split screen co-op, even local, is not a small feature. There's a lot to that, and it would have to be really meaningful and valuable to a wide enough ranging cohort of our user base, or something that people really valued, and ultimately it is unlikely something that we tackle for those reasons because we got a lot of other stuff to prioritize, like the hoverboard that we want to spend our time on, that more people are going to get value out of. So it's always this. There's like the there's not like a saying, but I think I've talked to many other developers over the years, and there's always this sentiment that things you don't put in for this game like go into the next game, or there's always like a bevy or wealth or just like treasure trove of cool features and ideas that we have, that anybody has for the game you're making, but a lot of that stuff ends up just getting cut because you run out of time or it doesn't quite fit in, or a million different reasons we've already talked about. So it's not to say that we're ever like are down on cool features like that, like we don't like it, or split co-op is bad. It's like, no man, co-op's great, love co-op, but there's always, again, those judgment calls of like, yeah, sure would be cool, but probably going to cost us like X months of development time with these number of people, and is that really going to be worthwhile compared to those folks spending time on these features? So that's the math, and it doesn't always work out for all the cool features you want to do. So maybe the next title we do some split screen co-op stuff. I don't know.
Great. Final question before we wrap up. Will there be a regional setting in game for multiplayer? Because it's annoying to change download regions in Steam settings.
Yeah, as we get to version 1.0, we want to improve the lobby system. Right now, it's pretty basic, um, and if you do want to play with someone in another region and their lobby isn't showing up, if you are friends, you should be able on Steam, you should be able to invite each other directly. Um, and that dodges that dodges the lobby finding. Um,
Mm-hmm.
be friends on Steam.
Hey, be friends on Steam. I think that's a great way to
Yeah,
end this chat.
yeah.
Be friends on Steam.
Sweet. All right. Well,
Mic
thanks,
drop.
guys, for making yourselves available and vulnerable to this audience and listening to all the feedback and questions. To wrap up, do you want to give us a quick update on what is to come in fall?
Michael
No.
Clark. Okay, that's fair. See you guys later.
No, the fall update, like I said, so we'll have an update in September. We'll have an update in October, and the fall update is going to be targeting probably earlier November, because there's a big American holiday in the back end of November, and important to me that people get to spend holidays with their family and not trying to push an update. Um, so the fall update will be this fall, and the big focus on that is going to be, like I said, revamping meta progression, build crafting, the weapon character build differentiation, all of that. So if you think of our spring update was focused on the overarching game loop, like the what are you doing here,
What are you
and then the
doing
summer
here?
update, yeah, and the summer update was focused on expanding the overgrowth and the open world and adding more things to that, and more concepts and layers to what are we doing over the course of a cycle. What are we thinking about over the course of a cycle?
What are you
You know,
doing there?
there's there's a lot more things to interact with and collect, and all of these things. There's a difficulty system, and so that's focusing on like being in the overgrowth. And then this next update is going to be focused on, all right, myself as a player, what am I doing moment to moment, and what is the meta progression, and what are the what differentiates my first time playing the game versus my 50th time versus my 100th time, and how does the game feel and transform over that. It's really important to us that meta progression captures that sense of transformation regularly, and uh, we we have some really good EXEs right now and some really good parts of our meta progression, and some other parts that are not great and are not where
Yeah,
we want to be.
they're pretty meh.
We generally
Few
want,
parts.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The
we know.
the high level direction here is directive is like every time you get an upgrade, you should want to go. I want to test that out. And so 5% buff to this thing, not very exciting. Um, a whole new this thing, a whole
105%.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Weapons do double damage. Now that's interesting. Like,
Now that's
uh,
cool.
yeah. So the goal is going to be changing up the EXE system, changing up the way characters unlock things, what they have available to them, et cetera, et cetera. And with the goal
Yep.
ultimately uh, of fewer like small changes and or sorry, instead of having a lot of small changes, having fewer but larger changes so that it feels more transformational.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean less parts of meta progression. That just means more transformation in there. So more
Impact.
cool
Think of
shit.
that font,
Yeah. Yes.
impact
It is
font. That's
entirely the
it.
font. Yeah.
That's the font. A couple of things to wrap up, and then we should scoot. But yeah, I think that it's always nice to sit and talk about these things and go in depth with folks. Definitely appreciate all the questions and thoughtful impressions from people, and especially if you really fucking hate a thing, you're like, why did you do this? Like, it's great to talk about it and sort of understand where we're coming from rather than judging it harshly, maybe. And also giving it a chance to like maybe evolve or for us to change, but also getting the feedback is very much why we do this stuff and why we have a game that is live in the first place. So, yeah, thanks for folks continually coming in, providing questions, and listening as we go on about this. The other last point was just there was a point in there, Michael, where you said water, and one of my favorite like regional dialect things is like in the Northeast when people say wooter. Um, it's just like you can, and some people try and not say it that way, so you can't tell they're from like Philly or whatever else. But you always catch a. I'm not saying you are, but it just for some reason it keyed me off, and I was like, yeah, wooter. Uh, or water ice is the thing that really gets me. If y'all don't know what water ice is, look it up. It's a dumb name, but it is a big thing out there in the Northeast. So.
I live in the
It is.
Northeast, never heard of it.
Well, it's
When he
not
says
a New
Northeast, he's
York
not
thing.
talking about New York State. Yeah.
It ain't New
Yeah.
York.
He's talking about
Maine?
somewhere else. New England, perhaps. Maine.
No,
Maine's
no,
got Worcester. The thing
no.
for people in Western New York where I grew up is we all say it's milk, like MELK, and I don't hear it like that. I
Milk,
hear milk, but then
milk.
someone says, "No, you say it
No,
milk,"
what?
and I'm like, "Yeah, I
Wooter
guess
is
I
a
do."
Wooter and water ice is a Philly thing. I have a few friends from
Yeah,
there, so there's like really specific, like regional things that are extremely regional, to like a
yeah,
city or a few different cities. And water ice is one of those things. We're saying Wooter is one of those
yeah.
things.
That sounds like a Philly or I'm googling now. Okay, it's a Philly thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got a bunch of friends in Pennsylvania, and I've been around a bunch, but not for a while.
Pennsylvania is a very weird state. So, all right,
And that's where
let's
we're
get out of
wrapping the
here.
All
stream.
right. Yes, that's your
Bye.
key
Thanks,
takeaway here,
everyone.
please. If nothing else. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.